Most people who move to Switzerland regret it within 2 years. And it's not because of what you think. You've seen the photos. Clean streets. Mountain views. High salaries. It looks perfect. That's the problem. Because what nobody tells you is this. Switzerland doesn't want you to stay. It just wants you to work. Let me explain. You arrive thinking you're making a smart move. Good job. Safe country. Beautiful scenery. Then week 3 hits. You realize you haven't had a real conversation with anyone. Not at the grocery store. Not at the gym. Not even at work during lunch. Everyone's polite. But no one's warm. Here's what's actually happening. The Swiss have a social structure that's been locked in place for generations. Your neighbors? They've known each other since kindergarten. Their parents went to school together. Their kids play together. You're not part of that circle. And you never will be. One American woman in Zurich told me she tried for 4 years to make local friends. She joined hiking groups, took German classes, volunteered at her kids' school. Know how many Swiss friends she made? 0. Not because she did anything wrong. Because the system isn't built for outsiders. Her name was Sarah. She moved from Seattle in 2018 with her husband who got a job at a pharmaceutical company. She was excited. She'd read all the expat blogs, watched all the YouTube videos. Everyone said the same thing. Just be patient. Join clubs. The Swiss warm up eventually. So she did everything right. She enrolled in intensive German courses. A1, A2, B1. She passed them all. She started going to a weekly hiking meetup specifically for newcomers. She baked cookies for her neighbors at Christmas. Traditional Swiss cookies, not American ones. She researched the recipes. Nothing. The hiking group? Friendly during the hikes. But when she suggested grabbing dinner afterward, everyone suddenly had plans. The neighbors? They accepted the cookies with a polite "Danke schön" and closed the door. The other parents at school? They'd been in the same friend groups since they were children. There was no space for her. After 2 years, her only friends were other expats. Americans, Brits, a few Germans, all of them struggling with the same thing. But wait, you're thinking, I don't need friends. I'm there for the salary. Fair enough. Let's talk about money. A software engineer in Zurich makes about 120,000 Swiss francs a year. Sounds incredible, right? Until you realize a 1-bedroom apartment costs 2,500 francs a month. Health insurance? Another 400 to 600 francs. Groceries for one person? Easily 600 francs. A coffee at a cafe? 7 francs. A beer? 9. Do the math. After rent, insurance, food, and basic living, you're saving maybe 2,000 francs a month. That's good. But it's not life-changing. Not when you're isolated. Not when you can't build a life outside of work. But here's what the blogs don't tell you. Those numbers? They're the minimum. They assume you're living like a monk. No social life. No travel. No unexpected costs. Let me break down what a real month looks like. Rent for a 1-bedroom in Zurich, 2,500 francs. But that's if you're lucky. Most places are 2,800 to 3,200. And you need to pay 3 months rent up front as a deposit. That's 9,000 francs before you even move in. Health insurance, mandatory. You have to buy it within 3 months of arriving. The cheapest option? About 400 francs a month. But that comes with a 2,500 franc deductible. Meaning if you get sick, you're paying out of pocket until you hit 2,500 francs. Most people upgrade to a 300 or 400 franc deductible plan. That costs 550 to 650 francs a month. Phone and internet, 100 francs a month minimum. Public transport. Zurich requires a monthly pass if you're commuting. That's 90 francs. Want to travel anywhere else in Switzerland on weekends? Add another 100 to 200 francs a month. Groceries. Here's where it gets brutal. A liter of milk? 3 francs. A loaf of bread? 5 francs. Chicken breast, per kilo? 35 francs. A simple dinner for 2 at home? 40 francs. If you're eating out even once a week, add 400 francs a month. Eating out. A basic lunch in Zurich costs 25 to 30 francs. Dinner? 50 to 80 francs per person. Want a beer with that? Add 9 francs. Glass of wine? 12. Gym membership? 100 to 150 francs a month. Laundry. Most apartments don't have in-unit machines. You share a communal laundry room with your building. You get assigned specific time slots. Miss your slot? Wait until next week. Some people pay for laundry services. That's 80 to 120 francs a month. Now add it up. 3,000 for rent, 600 for insurance, 100 for phone, 90 for transport, 700 for groceries, 400 for occasional meals out, 100 for gym, 100 for laundry and miscellaneous. That's 5,090 francs a month. On a 120,000 franc salary, you're taking home about 7,500 francs after taxes. So you're saving 2,400 francs a month. Not bad, right? That's 28,800 francs a year. About 32,000 US dollars. Except you're living in a one-bedroom apartment. Alone. With no social life. In one of the most beautiful countries in the world that you can't afford to enjoy. Because here's the thing. Everything in Switzerland costs more. Want to go skiing? Day pass at a decent resort? 80 to 120 francs. Rent equipment? Add another 60. Lunch on the mountain? 25 francs for a sandwich. Weekend trip to the mountains? Hotel for one night? 150 to 300 francs. Dinner? 60 francs. Breakfast? 25 francs. The lifestyle Switzerland promises? You can't afford it. Not on a normal salary. Not unless you're making 200,000 francs a year or more. And even then, you're still alone. Because here's the thing. Everything in Switzerland costs more. Want to go skiing? Day pass at a decent resort? 80 to 120 francs. Rent equipment? Add another 60. Lunch on the mountain? 25 francs for a sandwich. Weekend trip to the mountains? Hotel for one night? 150 to 300 francs. Dinner? 60 francs. Breakfast? 25 francs. The lifestyle Switzerland promises? You can't afford it. Not on a normal salary. Not unless you're making 200,000 francs a year or more. And even then, you're still alone. Let me tell you about Marcus. German guy. Moved to Zurich in 2020 for a job at Google. Smart guy. Making 180,000 francs a year. He thought he had it figured out. He rented a nice two-bedroom apartment in Erlikon. 3,400 francs a month. Upgraded his health insurance to the best plan. 780 francs. Joined an expensive gym with a sauna and pool. 200 francs. Ate out 4 times a week because why not? He could afford it. After a year, he'd saved 15,000 francs. Good money. But he was miserable. His co-workers were friendly at work, but never invited him out. He went to bars alone. Traveled to the mountains alone. Worked out alone. He told me the breaking point came on his birthday. He invited his team out for drinks. 12 people. He offered to pay for the first round. Know how many showed up? 2. Both expats. One from India. One from France. He quit 6 months later and moved to Berlin. Took a 40% pay cut. He's happier now. Now let's talk about what happens to your identity. Because this is where it gets uncomfortable. You move there thinking you'll integrate. Learn the language. Understand the culture. But Switzerland has 4 official languages. German in Zurich. French in Geneva. Italian in Ticino. Romansh in some valleys. Except the German they speak isn't the German you learn in class. It's Swiss German, a dialect so different that even Germans from Germany struggle with it. Let me explain how different Swiss German is. If you learn High German, the standardized German taught in schools worldwide, you can communicate in Germany, Austria, and most of Switzerland's written communication. But spoken Swiss German? It's almost a different language. The pronunciation is different. The vocabulary is different. The grammar bends rules that don't exist in High German. There are words in Swiss German that have no equivalent in High German. And every canton has its own dialect. Zurich German sounds different from Bern German. Bern German sounds different from Basel German. A Swiss person can tell which village you're from by your accent. You take classes. You study. You try. And then you go to the bakery and the woman behind the counter switches to English the second you open your mouth. Not to help you. To speed things up. Because you're slowing down her day. One British expat in Basel said it took her 6 years before anyone spoke to her in Swiss German without immediately switching to English. 6 years. And even then, she was never treated like she belonged. Her name was Emma. She moved to Basel in 2015 for work. She was determined to integrate. She took private Swiss German lessons. 3 times a week, 120 francs an hour. She practiced with language exchange partners. She watched Swiss TV shows. She listened to Swiss podcasts. After 3 years, she was conversationally fluent. She understood almost everything. She could respond. She had the vocabulary. But here's what happened. Every time she spoke Swiss German in a shop, at a restaurant, at the post office, people responded in English. Every single time. She'd ask a question in Swiss German. They'd answer in English. She'd continue in Swiss German. They'd continue in English. Like she wasn't even trying. She finally asked a Swiss colleague why this kept happening. He was honest with her. He said, "Your Swiss German is good, but you have an accent, and it's easier for everyone if we just speak English. It's not personal, but it was personal, because what that meant was, you'll never sound like us. So why bother?" Here's what nobody tells you before you go. The Swiss are proud of their neutrality. But neutrality doesn't mean welcoming. It means keeping distance from everyone. Switzerland's neutrality is political. It's historical. It's protected by law. But it's also cultural. The Swiss don't get involved. Not in foreign wars. Not in foreign politics. Not in your life. There's a famous Swiss concept called Rostgraben. It literally means Rosti ditch. Rosti is a Swiss potato dish. The Rostgraben refers to the cultural divide between German-speaking and French-speaking Switzerland. They're polite. They coexist. But they keep their distance. That same principle applies to foreigners. You're tolerated. You're even appreciated for your economic contribution. But you're not one of them. This shows up in weird ways. Small ways. Ways you don't expect. Apartment hunting. You'll see this immediately. Landlords in Switzerland have enormous power. They can reject you for any reason. Too young. Too old. Wrong profession. Wrong nationality. And they do. One Indian woman told me she applied to 40 apartments in Geneva. She had a great job at the UN, perfect credit. References. She was rejected 38 times. 2 landlords finally told her the truth. We prefer Swiss tenants. Banking. Opening a bank account in Switzerland as a foreigner is surprisingly difficult. Some banks require a residence permit, proof of employment, a Swiss phone number, and a letter from your employer confirming your salary. The process takes weeks. Healthcare. Remember that mandatory health insurance? You can't choose your doctor freely. You're assigned to a network. Want to see a specialist? You need a referral. The waiting time? 3 to 6 months for non-urgent cases. Voting. Even if you live in Switzerland for decades, you can't vote in federal elections unless you become a citizen. And becoming a Swiss citizen? Nearly impossible. You need 10 years of residence. You need to prove integration, language fluency, knowledge of Swiss history and politics, financial stability, no criminal record. And even then, your citizenship is decided by your local municipality. Your neighbors vote on whether you deserve to be Swiss. Yes. You read that right. Your neighbors vote on you. Some municipalities require you to attend an interview where they ask about your hobbies, your friends, your habits. They want to know if you've integrated. One Kosovo Albanian family was rejected because the committee decided they were too loud and didn't respect Swiss quiet hours. But maybe you're different. Maybe you're okay being alone. Maybe you just want financial security. Let me tell you what happened to a finance worker from India who moved to Geneva in 2019. He had a great job at a private bank, made good money, saved aggressively. Then COVID hit. The bank laid off 15% of its staff. He was one of them, not because of performance, because he didn't have the same networks as the Swiss employees. His name was Arjun. He'd been working in Geneva for 2.5 years when COVID shut everything down. March 2020. The bank went remote. Arjun kept working. He was good at his job. He managed client portfolios worth millions. But in June, the layoff started. The bank called it restructuring. They let go of 15% of the staff. Arjun was one of them. He had 90 days to find a new job or leave. He applied to 200 positions, got 12 interviews, 0 offers. Why? Because Swiss companies prioritize EU citizens first, then Swiss nationals, then everyone else. He left after 11 weeks. 3 years of his life gone, and the money he saved barely covered the cost of moving back and restarting. Here's what made it worse. During those 11 weeks, he couldn't claim unemployment benefits because he hadn't been in Switzerland long enough. You need at least 12 months of continuous employment in the last 2 years to qualify. He'd been employed for 2.5 years, but there was a 3-month gap when he first arrived and was job hunting. So he had no income, no safety net, just his savings and a countdown clock. He told me the worst part wasn't the rejection. It was the realization that Switzerland never wanted him to stay. The system is designed for temporary workers. High salaries to attract talent. Strict permits to control who stays. No integration support because you're not supposed to integrate. You're a resource, not a resident. And here's the twist nobody mentions. Switzerland has a permit system that controls everything. You need a B permit to stay long-term. But to get a B permit, you need to keep your job. Lose your job? You have 90 days to find another one or leave the country. No exceptions. Let's talk about the permit system, because this is how Switzerland maintains control. When you first arrive, you get an L permit, short-term residence, valid for 1 year or less, depending on your contract. You can't change jobs easily. If you want to switch employers, your new employer has to prove they couldn't find a Swiss or EU citizen to do the job. After a year, if you still have a job, you can apply for a B permit. Long-term residence, valid for 5 years. Renewable. This is what most expats have. But here's the catch. Your B permit is tied to your employment. Lose your job, and you have 90 days to find a new one in the same field. Can't find one, your permit gets revoked. You have to leave. There's no grace period. No unemployment benefits if you haven't been there long enough. No exceptions for how long you've lived there or how much tax you've paid. After 10 years of continuous residence with a B permit, you can apply for AC permit, permanent residence. This is the holy grail. With AC permit, you can change jobs freely. You can start a business. You can access unemployment benefits. You're almost Swiss, but getting there? 10 years. That's 10 years of perfect employment. No gaps, no mistakes. And even then, you're not a citizen. You're not building a life. You're renting one. Now let me tell you about the social cost. The thing nobody talks about. The thing that breaks people faster than money or permits. Loneliness. Switzerland has one of the highest rates of antidepressant use in Europe. About 6% of the population takes them regularly. And among expats, the numbers are even higher. There's a reason for this. The Swiss social structure is closed. It's based on lifelong relationships. Your kindergarten friends become your school friends. Your school friends become your university friends. Your university friends become your professional network. If you're not born into that system, you can't enter it. I spoke to a therapist in Zurich who specializes in expat mental health. She told me the most common complaint she hears is, "I feel invisible." People describe going weeks without meaningful human contact. They go to work. They come home. They maybe exchange pleasantries with a cashier. That's it. One Australian man told me he went 3 months without touching another human being. No handshakes. No hugs. Nothing. He said he started going to the barber every 2 weeks just to feel someone's hands on his head. Another woman from Canada said she'd cry in the grocery store because the clerk said, "Have a nice day," and it was the kindest thing anyone had said to her all week. This is what isolation does. It's not just sad. It's dangerous. But here's where it gets really dark. Switzerland has one of the highest suicide rates in Western Europe. About 1,000 people per year. In a country of 8.5 million. And while there's no official data separating Swiss nationals from expats, mental health professionals say the expat community is disproportionately affected. Why? Because isolation compounds. You're already far from family, far from your support system. Your friends back home are living their lives. They don't understand what you're going through, and you can't explain it to them. Because on paper, your life looks perfect. High salary, beautiful country, safe streets. How do you tell people you're miserable when you're living their dream? So you don't. You post photos of mountain hikes on Instagram. You tell everyone back home how great it is, and you suffer in silence. Let me tell you about David. American guy. Moved to Zurich in 2017 for a job in finance, making 150,000 francs a year. He lasted 8 months. He told me he'd never felt more alone in his life. He'd wake up, Go to the gym. Go to work. Come home. Watch Netflix. Sleep. Repeat. Weekend were worse. He'd walk around the city, watching families, couples, groups of friends. Everyone had someone. He had no one. He tried everything. Dating apps, sports clubs, language exchanges, meetup groups. Nothing stuck. Every connection felt transactional. Surface level. He said the breaking point came on a Saturday in March. It was beautiful outside. Sunny. Warm. First day of spring. He went to a lakeside park. Hundreds of people. Picnics. Music. Laughter. He sat alone on a bench for 3 hours. Just watching. No one spoke to him. No one even made eye contact. He flew back to New York the next week. Quit his job via email. Now here's the part that's going to make you angry. The Swiss don't see this as a problem. They see it as a feature. Switzerland is rich because it's selective. It attracts high-skilled workers, pays them well, taxes them heavily, and expects them to leave eventually. The system works for Switzerland. The country has virtually no unemployment, a massive tax base from foreign workers, and no obligation to integrate people who won't stay. It's efficient. It's profitable. It's Swiss. But it's also cruel, because people who move there don't know this. They think they're building a future. They think if they work hard, learn the language, and follow the rules, they'll belong. They won't. I spoke to a Swiss politician once. Off the record, I asked him directly, does Switzerland want immigrants to integrate? He paused. Then he said, Switzerland wants workers. Integration is not the goal. That's the truth. Switzerland is not an immigration country. It's a work destination. There's a difference. And if you don't understand that difference before you move, you'll learn it the hard way. You want to know the real reason people regret moving to Switzerland? It's not the cost. It's not even the loneliness. It's the realization that you were never supposed to stay. You were always just passing through. The system is designed that way. High salaries attract talent. Strict permits control who stays. Social barriers prevent integration. It's efficient. It's clean. It's Swiss. And it works. For them. But what about you? What happens when you realize you've spent years building a life that was never meant to last? What happens when you wake up at 35, 40, 45 and realize you have money but no roots? No community. No place that feels like home. Some people accept it. They treat Switzerland like a job. They work. They save. They leave. They see it as a transaction. 5 years of sacrifice for financial security somewhere else. Others stay trapped. The salary becomes a cage. They can't afford to leave. They've gotten used to the lifestyle. They've adapted to the loneliness. It becomes normal. And a very few, actually make it work. They marry a Swiss person. They have kids who grow up Swiss. They get their C permit. Eventually, maybe citizenship. But those people are rare. And even they'll tell you, it's never the same as being born here. So here's my question for you. If you knew you'd never truly belong, that you'd always be an outsider, that your entire life would depend on keeping one job in one of the most expensive countries on earth, would you still go? Because thousands of people make that choice every year. And most of them regret it. But maybe you're different. Maybe you're the exception. Maybe you can handle the isolation, the cost, the bureaucracy, the cultural barriers, the knowledge that you'll never really belong. Or maybe you're just like everyone else who thought they were different, until they weren't.